The Batman is a fitting title for a movie about Batman. And when I say that, I mean it's about Batman. Which I don't think there's been such a film since Mask of the Phantasm or Batman Begins that does such a deep dive of the character. But even those, I would argue, are more so focused on Bruce and not Batman. For those of you saying Dark Knight was more of a Batman movie, I'd argue it's more of a Joker movie than the movie called Joker. Ugh. But we're getting off topic. In this video, I'm going to do my best to explain why Matt Reeves' The Batman, amongst all other Batman movies, is the perfect Batman movie. In short, without spoilers, it's the best balance between the detective aspect and the fighter brutality quality of his character, with some occasionally brief tender moments if you really pay attention. But what I adore most is the effect Batman has on Gotham, and how that's portrayed. Part of what I love about Batman Begins is that Batman is in essence something to be feared by criminals, and we get to see that in full effect during this movie. That being said, I'm now going to get into this movie a little more thoroughly, so if you haven't seen it yet, this is a warning that there will be some minor spoilers moving forward. If you want to go into this film as blind as a bat, then I suggest stopping here, and if you like what I've said so far, coming back to finish the video later. But if you've already seen the film, or don't care about small stuff being said, then you're free to stick around. Okay, let's start from the beginning of the film then. The opening sequence in which criminals are terrified of the bat signal is pure perfection. That is pure Batman already. Though it does look a little familiar. Dark Knight has a pretty similar opening scene, but I'll let that slide because Reeves did it better, sorry to say Nolan. And the reason I say that is because Reeves opening the film this way actually plays a very vital means to the story. The movie is about how the city perceives Batman just as much as how Bruce perceives Gotham in his journal. So it's fitting to start out by showing how Batman is perceived. And we see that its people are scared shitless of him. And I say people because it's not just criminals. It's also the guy Batman saves in that opening scene. It's always weird to see people scared of the guy who just saved them, but it makes sense in retrospect that Batman is something to be scared of. I told you, the other thing about Batman is that he can be brutal, and this rendition is very aggressive. Not a killer like Affleck, but more so what Batman's level of violence is all about. The point of Batman breaking bones and crippling people is to create fear, to make them second guess ever doing anything illegal ever again. And we see that in full effect during the opening sequence, when a guy spraying graffiti gives up halfway to run off. Batman effectively stops crime this way, because the fear of feeling pain is much worse than being scared of dying. Death is letting them off easy, but pain makes you feel very much alive in the worst way. It's not justice, it's vengeance. By the way, why does everybody call him Mr. Vengeance from then on? Were they somehow present at the subway station to hear him? Did Pattinson do what Keaton did and tell him to tell his criminal friends about him? Whatever. I guess we'll move on to the detective aspect now. Riddler being the perfect candidate to deliver that element of Batman's character as much as we get in this movie. Speaking of Riddler, when the mayor didn't notice him behind him, that only further egged me on to keep checking behind my shower curtain and to keep randomly punching it, because you never know who's hiding in the house to kill you. Luckily, NordVPN, nah, I'm just kidding, I ain't sponsored. As I was saying though, the detective aspect of Batman's character comes out in this movie more than we get in prior films. I think the closest we got was in Dark Knight when Bruce is doing some whack bullet stuff to catch Joker, and Dark Knight Rises when he's trying to figure out who stole his mother's pearls. But in this movie, we get a lot of detective work, and not your cop-out equipment scanning the scene for him stuff. I'm talking some actual on-the-field thinking, like when he checks under a carpet for a clue based on a murder weapon. He doesn't use Google or Bing to solve riddles, he's just that intellectually superior to know the answers. The riddle about the thumb drive? Yeah, I love that. And it's not just crime scene stuff we get, but seeking out witnesses and performing some undercover work too, which is often overlooked as part of being a detective, but isn't here. But while Batman has that super awesome side of him, I was also relieved to see the tender, tragic, and sad part of his character. When a kid is orphaned because Batman couldn't save his father from being a victim, Bruce stares at him and holds that gaze, despite Gordon ushering him that they have to go. This is one of the more obvious moments in which we see this side of the character, since it comes up again when Alfred sees it in Batman's eye recording, which is also super cool of the film to include as well. But a less obvious and fleeting moment I'd like to bring up is when Catwoman makes a joke about Batman's mask, asking if he wears it because he's disfigured. The way Pattinson replies yes, it sounds so sad, and I love it, because it has an unspoken response that it's not his face which is disfigured, but his heart. Something that would be cringy and abnormal if he were to say it out loud, but like this it works wonderfully, because it's something that can go very easily unnoticed and brush off as a joke, but has a deeper meaning. Batman's disfigured, so he wears his mask. He is Batman because he's disfigured. I would have liked to see Bruce's adamancy about not using guns some more, but there were one or two emphasized moments there as well, and the importance as to why he's against killing. But I've already talked a lot about that aspect of his character in a previous video essay, so I'll skip it this time. That being said, we've reached the end of the video. Hey dudes, I'm the one and only Grosso guy. If you're a new subscriber or viewer, welcome to the Grosso Group.